Ladies and gentlemen, seekers of light and secret knowledge wherever you may be, you are listening to Points of Light Radio, the podcast dedicated to taking you past the apron and behind the closed doors of lodges everywhere. And here is your host, Stan Miller.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom, assalamu alaikum, adnastana. As always, it's a pleasure to be back with you here at Points of Light Radio. In this particular segment, we will be shedding some light on the Order of United American Mechanics. Right? Now, there are some of my listeners and viewers may have heard of the Independent United Order of Mechanics or the Junior Order of United American Mechanics, both of which have essentially told me where to go and how to get there. But no, this particular order is that we'll be shedding some light on today is a defunct fraternal order. So they've fascinated me since I discovered them during my research. And as I always say, it's always interesting and always a bit of a learning experience when we discuss these defunct fraternal orders. So let's do that, shall we? But are you still thirsty for knowledge? Are you still searching for the light? Then just trim your lamp and follow me. So, where do we start with this organization? First of all, the Order of United American Mechanics was a secret, patriotic, benevolent society founded in Philadelphia in 1845. Now, as I said, they were founded in Philadelphia amid the anti-alien riots of 1844-1845. Now, these riots were a series of riots that took place on the 6th to the 8th of May and on July 6th to 7th, and as well as the 18th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as well as some adjacent districts. They were the result of anti-Catholic sentiment and at the growing population of Irish Catholic immigrants. What is it about these Irish that people don't like, eh? The order also grew out of the resentment many native-born American workers in Philadelphia felt towards foreigners during the recession of the mid-1840s. Right? Now, membership in the United American Mechanics was only open to non-Catholic Americans who were eligible for membership. Among the objectives of the United American Mechanics were the exhibition of the flag, U.S. flag, on public schools, the restriction of immigration, opposition to any union of church and state, as well as the practical business aid to members and the relief of their widows and orphans. But the two big goals of the Order of United American Mechanics were the restriction of immigration and keeping the Bibles in public schools. Does any of that sound familiar to you? Now, despite their anti-immigrant stance, it's ironic that the fraternity's first leader was a gentleman named Daniel Pistorius. He was a direct descendant of a German immigrant named Francis Daniel Pistorius. Francis Daniel Pistorius was the founder of Germantown, Pennsylvania, and is considered the father of Germans in America. Go figure, eh? Right? Now, many of the nativist societies that sprang up in the 1840s and 1850s were unable to survive the United States Civil War. However, the Order of United American Mechanics did, right? By 1896, there were state councils, or grand lodges as we call them now, in 21 states, and the order had 160,000 members nationwide. Now, the ritual and symbolism of the group was said to be heavily influenced by that of Freemasonry, right? Of the 25 original members, 4 were Masons and 4 other delegates were eventually raised to the craft. So here again, Masons helping start other fraternal organizations. You saw this in previous segments of Points of Light Radio. Now, the only feature distinguishing the United American Mechanics emblem from that of Freemasonry was that the United American Mechanics placed a bent arm holding a hammer as if to strike within the square and compass seen here. From October of 1845, the order offered sick and death benefits along the lines offered by contemporary groups like the Oddfellows or the Improved Order of Redmond. In 1896, the group was paying out funeral benefits of $300. These were supervised by local councils. Now, contrary to its name, okay, the Order of American Mechanics never acted as a trade union or even took part in labor disputes. Over time, its membership became less working class as it attracted people from diverse social and economic backgrounds. Does that sound familiar? Like that happened in Freemasonry too, right? And eventually, the Order of United American Mechanics abandoned its nativist politics and became a standard insurance society. They even dropped the word order from their name and became just the United American Mechanics. Now, this organization was parent to the Junior Order of United American Mechanics, which was formed in Germantown, Pennsylvania in 1853. And that organization was set up to train younger members for the senior order, right? So that's quite similar in many ways to, shall we say, the Masons who have the Demo Lay, or the Orange Lodge who have junior orders, and so on, right? However, in 1885, the Junior Order of United American Mechanics separated from the parent organization and went on, in fact, to surpass the Order of United American Mechanics in size and activity. And the Order of United American Mechanics was eventually absorbed by its former youth affiliate, and the Junior Order of United American Mechanics continues to this day. And like I said, I can't seem to arrange an interview with them. They just don't get back to me. There you have it, brothers and sisters. How do you feel about the Order of United American Mechanics? On a personal level, I can see that the Order of United American Mechanics tapped into some sentiments at the time, and that quite simply was the anti-immigrant sentiment of the 1840s. Now, does that sound familiar? Right? Right. There is a tremendous amount of anti-immigrant sentiment, not just, to be fair, in the United States, but all across the world right now. There's countries struggling with the influx of new immigrants given world events right now. Right? My question, quite simply put to you at this point, is could there be similar secret societies, right, being formed as a result of the current anti-immigrant sentiments throughout the world? I would hope not, actually. Right? Now, this group started during a recession of the 1840s, right? And survived the American Civil War. Okay, a very bloody war, one of the probably the bloodiest war in American history, right? But let's break that down a little bit. The recession of the 1840s, and you've heard me say this before, the further we get away from these types of historical events, recessions, and so on, the less severe we view them. You have to understand that a recession in the 1800s would involve a lot of things that you would never see right now. Prime example is there was the catastrophic effect of having a recession when you don't have a welfare state to fall back on. You didn't even have homeless shelters and food banks in those days. You were very much on your own, but they managed to start this organization during that time, right? The U.S. Civil War, as I said, was probably one of the most divisive in U.S. history, right? And of course, the most bloody, right? And yet, they managed to survive that. Not only did they start during a recession, they survived this Civil War. So they were doing many of the right things, as you often hear me say, right? Prime example was membership benefits were very generous at $300. Okay, that's very generous for that time. And think about it. You're starting these programs up during a recession, but also when people's loved ones are being killed during the Civil War. Wow, right? Now, another question I would pose is if they had stayed secular, similar to the Loyal Orange Lodge that you've seen covered here on Points of Light Radio and some of the other loyal orders that came out of Great Britain, if they had stayed secular, could they have survived? Something to think about anyways, right? I'm going to enclose the link to their initiation ritual in the details section of this particular segment. That way you can see how many similarities there are with that to Freemasonry as well. You will see that in there. But I do hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoy bringing you these kind of historical segments. But before I go, I want to remind you that this podcast is available on both YouTube and Spreaker. Please share, like, and subscribe when viewing Points of Light Radio on YouTube. I also welcome your comments and input. You can follow Points of Light Radio on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Points of Light Radio. My Twitter handle is at PO Light Radio. You can see the link to my Spotify channel as well as my Points of Light Radio store. Brothers and sisters, I'm sorry to part, but until we meet again, just step into the light.